All right, so it is settled. The Super Bowl is going to be between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco rallied with a huge comeback against the Lions. Some might say a complete collapse of the Lions instead. Kind of goes both ways. And the Chiefs took down the Ravens. I thought the Ravens were going to go all the way, and Lamar was having an MVP like season, but the Chiefs just completely kind of snuffed them out, didn't do too much. So now we're looking at the Chiefs 49ers Super Bowl and get right into it. So to compare these teams here, I do think Mahomes is the significantly better quarterback. I'm not high on Purdy whatsoever. I think he can do just enough to get by and get things done. He's not, like I said in the last recording we did, he's not really going to necessarily put the team on his back. They did lead a comeback, but if you get to the point where you have to lead a comeback, I think that kind of says something there. But he has really good weapons all around the board. Christian McCaffrey, who I think is the best player in the NFL right now, period. A very stout defense. I do think the Chiefs are a bit weaker than they have been in the past, but when you have a top quarterback, a top head coach, a top tight end, that all really works well together to just kind of put you in the driver's seat to be competing for a Super Bowl pretty much every year. But when it comes down to it, it's hard to say that quarterback's not going to ultimately decide the game. The 49ers haven't been. They've had to really come back in a couple games. So it's kind of hard to just say that they win outright. And it's a little hard to say the Chiefs win outright either. But for my prediction, it's just for me, it's hard to justify the roster that San Francisco 49ers have not winning it all, especially when it's not the Chiefs' best roster they've had. They've struggled so much with the wide receiver corps. I feel like, they've gotten this far, but that's bound to, hurt them in the end. I think it finally gets to them where they're just not able to do it. And I think the 49ers aren't going to let themselves slip up again after they have been in the playoffs. So I think the 49ers take it in the Super Bowl.
So, like you said, Chiefs, Niners. I'm going to go with the Chiefs just because if I am looking at it as who am I going to have with the ball in their hand late in the game, who do I trust more? I trust Pat Mahomes over Purdy just because Mahomes has been there and done it already. He's already won a Super Bowl against these Niners 4 years ago. Um, not the same Niners team, but it was against the Niners. But I just think with Mahomes and Kelsey and Andy Reid, I just think that veteranship and being there and multiple times together, I just feel like I trust Mahomes to make a play late in the game more than Purdy. Because we've seen Purdy, have really good games, be a really good quarterback, have great stats, but then we also have games where Purdy just makes a mistake or a couple. But ultimately, at the end of the day, turnovers are a key factor and quarterback play is a key factor. So I think it comes down to whoever has the ball last, and if it's Mahomes, and I trust Mahomes with the ball late in the game than Purdy. So I'm going to take the Chiefs just because of that aspect. Also, Chiefs defense is better than what people think. They did a really good job against Lamar, containing him and not letting him, do what he normally does and run the ball effectively. Um, so I feel like Spagnolia will do something against this Niners offense to somewhat contain them. Because really, you know, Purdy's a good quarterback, but it's ultimately his weapons that carry the load for him. I mean, McCaffrey, you can argue he's the best player in the league. Then you got Debo and Brandon Ayuk along with George Kittle. Um, so the offense is good. Defense is just as good. I agree with what you said. The Chiefs receiving core is definitely down, but they do have Travis Kelce, and it seems like even if the guy's doubled or triple teamed, he always finds a crease to get open. And I think with him and Pat being in two Super Bowls already, they understand their chemistry together when big moments matter. So I think that's where I give the edge to the Chiefs, and that's why I'm going to go with them, just because I ultimately think that um, between the two and their veteranship together and being these big moments already, um, will ultimately lead them over the hump. So.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. Excuse the technical difficulties. You said that you're confident in Mahomes' ability to kind of lead the final drive to give the Chiefs that victory. Well, my counterpoint to that, and also my point that I did have earlier, is that the Chiefs wide receivers just are not very good right now. They have a lot of guys who tend to drop the ball. They don't get separation that well. And even when they do, they don't do what they're supposed to do. And especially in the brightest lights like this, even though they do have Kelsey, who is great, I do think he is going to make big plays regardless. But I think you need more around you than just one guy. And, given how good the 49ers defense is, and obviously, they're smart. Not only are they talented, they're smart. They know, let's do our absolute best to try and stop Kelsey, and let's try and make these other guys do something. And I'm not sure those guys can do enough. So that's why. That's my biggest point as to why I'm taking the Niners there.
Yeah, also another point I forgot to mention about the Chiefs offense is Isaiah Pacheco. Um I think he's been playing really well, especially these last two games. Even against the Ravens, they had a real long drive, like almost 10 minutes, because, they were able to run the ball on him and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if they can run on this Niners defense. We saw again in the Lions game where they gave up like 150 in the first half rushing to Detroit. Um, but then they locked them up in the second half because now the Niners have to choose, all right, do I commit to the run or do I give up the pass? So, and I think with Andy Reid's play calling and his offensive mind, um, I think he'll come up with some tricks, probably. I think both teams will because it's the end of the year, so they'll come up with something to surprise the other team. So that's just kind of another factor I forgot to put in because I think Pacheco is playing really well and their run game is really good, has been really well the past few games in the playoffs. Um, so yeah, I think if
Yeah,
they can do a balance, the Chiefs will be fine.
yeah. You went ahead and mentioned some trickery there. I do think, I don't necessarily. I'm not going to assume that they're going to do that, but I think that the Niners, they could try and use Debo. They did in years past, where they kind of like made him like a big run option, kind of like a threat all over the field. Even though he's kind of gone away from that, I could see that being something where they open up a few plays for him to kind of catch the Chiefs defense off guard. Because I do think the Niners have that ability. Because I do think their weapons are significantly better. And I think they can do a lot. McCaffrey's also, he runs, he catches. Kittle's a big guy, he's a blocker. I think they have a lot more to work with than the Chiefs do. So that's another little tidbit there. You have anything else to add, or is that all for you?
No, that's really it. I think it'll be a good game. Um, Probably won't be that high scoring. I think it'll be like in the 30s at
Yeah,
most.
I can agree to that.
Um, but I kind of like what I said. I'm just gonna piggyback on it. Whoever has the ball last, and if I had to choose between the two, I'm taking Mahomes over Purdy, just because of Mahomes being there before and has done it before. And we know Purdy's ability to be turnover, like a turnover type guy. Um, so, but that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, one of us will be right. I picked the San Francisco 49ers. You picked the Kansas City Chiefs. And one of them has to win the Super Bowl somehow, some way.